I'm sure many of us know someone, if not you, who's felt uncomfortable talking about religion and money or just have feelings of shame or guilt about it. Welcome to Yahweh's Money, a podcast where we discuss the crossroads or intersections of religion and money. We're going to go deep into topics like tithing and saving and debt and so much more from the religious view. I'm your host, Shay Cook, CEO and founder, Crusaders for Change, LLC, and our co-host is Vanessa McNelly, one of our financial counselor, coach, educators. Let's talk about God and money. Welcome back to another episode of Yahweh's Money, the crossroads of religion and money. I'm super excited to be here today. Today we're talking about goals to get going. And our guest is AJ Torrez, which I'll have introduce himself in a minute. But we also have Vanessa, our co-host. Say hello, Vanessa.
Hey guys, good to be back with you.
Yeah. So AJ, welcome. We're super excited to have you here. If you can tell us just a little bit about yourself and we'll get into the episode of goals to get going.
Sure. Right now I am a full-time soldier. I do human resources. I'm a senior enlisted soldier in the U.S. Army. Actually got picked up for warrant officer, so I'll be getting ready for that soon.
Wow.
But I also
Congratulations.
do.
Yay.
Thank you. I do life coaching on the side as well. So I have a I'm a certified life coach as well as certified mental resiliency trainer, personal trainer, and I do all that through my program called Living Fully Fit, where it's all about balance and finding spiritual, physical, mental, relational wellness in every aspect of our lives. And have a background in youth ministry, so I'm a jack of all trades, so to speak.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that definitely fits in with what we do. A lot of our clients need all of that balance and that wellness. So add in the finances, and then everything else goes and fits in. And I always
Absolutely.
tell people
Right.
that finances intertwines with everything in your life, spiritually, mentally, physically, family, friends, job. So we're definitely here to support you as well as Crusaders for Change. So thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, our episode today is goals to get going. So what is this all about goals, and especially when it comes to financial goals? Why is financial goal setting so important? According to Proverbs 24:27, it says, "Put your outdoor work in order and get your fields ready. After that, build your house." And suppose one wants to build a tower, won't you first sit down to estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? That was Luke 14:28. So, AJ, why is financial goal setting so important?
Well, I think honestly, a lot of people don't prepare themselves for the future. They're reactionary. A lot of people are reactionary, and I think
Yes.
having those goals to be proactive is going to help you not just in saving up for a house, whatever, but just making sure that you have that nest egg that you're able to just not just survive, but to thrive. So I think we live in this lifestyle of knee jerk reactions to a lot of things. And when you have those goals, especially financial, you're able to then save up for those big things, but also not live paycheck to paycheck. You can enjoy and thrive at life and be able to do those big things you've been wanting to do, travel, stay fit, whatever it is, save for college for your kids, all those things. But it starts off with those goals and having sustainable, honestly, realistic goals.
Yeah. I think if we don't have goals, we have nothing that we're working towards. So, how do we know what we want to do, what we want to accomplish if we don't have those standards, those things we want to achieve? I'm definitely a planner, always have been, always will be. And I think that helps me kind of focus on what I want to do now and what I want to do next as well. Because if we're not focusing on tomorrow, we really can't focus on today either.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. I've always been a driven by goals. I set big goals. When I was younger, I used to set really small goals. The ones like, oh, buy some shoes or buy some clothes. Never thinking 5, 10, 20 years later. But as I, got married and had a child, then it became very important to have those longer term goals and meet those and then surpass those, thank God, most of the time. But it's really important to have those goals there because we have to do our part, but God does his as well, right? That's an important
Right.
reminder. And throughout scripture, it really says how he's there to support us, and just exactly like it says in Proverbs 28:18, where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy he is. So, when we don't have a vision, when we don't have goals, like Vanessa was saying, where are you going? Like, you're gonna just probably just perish. Where are you going? Where are you heading to? Especially financially, if you have, whatever the goal may be, and or the idea might be the vision, and you don't have a smart goal, as we usually talk about, the
Mhm.
specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely, timetable goal. Where are you going? And according to the law, according to the word, you're going to probably perish because or that goal is not going to be met because there was no goal there, right?
Well, it's like having a map. You need a roadmap to
Mm,
get somewhere, and without a map, you're going to get lost and find yourself probably somewhere you don't want to be.
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah, and I think people who
Exactly.
have goals and set goals are happier people as well. Because if you don't have a
Yeah.
purpose, you know, a lot of people who don't have purpose in their lives, they're depressed and they're lonely and they really have nothing that they're truly living for at that moment. So when you have those goals and you have things that you want to do and you want to accomplish, then, you get excited about life and you're excited about the next step versus somebody who's like, well, I guess tomorrow is going to be like today, and the next day is going to be just like that. So it can get lonely and depressing when it's like that too.
Yeah, exactly. There's no progress, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then, and then I think about goals. I think about the ever ending New Year's resolutions that people have. According to
Right.
an article in Inc. or inc.com, a study done by the Dominican University in California on goal setting, you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals when you write them down. I totally agree with that. And this
Mm-hmm.
article also states that 60% of New Year's resolutions are stopped after the first 6 months and 25% after the first 7 days. I would say if you go to a gym, that number's higher. So after about 7 to 30 days, you're like, these are the same
Mm-hmm.
people I saw here a few years ago. Them people that were coming in there that first month is all excited and stuff, and then it starts to dwindle down, and then you're back to the same old crew that you saw for years before. So, and
Right.
then even the Bible tells us to do our work diligently. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your all might. Oh, I always get that wrong. Ecclesiastic
Ecclesiastes.
9:10. Ecclesiastics. Thank you. 9:10. So how do we apply this principle to our own goals? AJ.
Um, it's really just about looking at an organized plan. It's being organized. I think for any kind of goal, you have to have some kind of organization, and everybody has a different, I guess, take on organization. Some people are A type, like I'm an A type personality, where I have
Mhm.
my set way of doing things, and it's my way to do it, and it's going to happen. It's going to be organized, and I know where everything's at. I can find things. I was the kind of kid where I was just in charge of my own money, my own toys. I was in charge of my sister and my cousins because that's the personality I was. My parents and my aunts and uncles knew that, but it boils down to, yeah, a little bit of personality, but also being deliberate about making your plan. Kind of like, again, writing things out, but then making that checklist. Okay, I did this now. What's the next step? Okay, now what do I do? And you have to kind of take those deliberate steps. It's being just deliberate, not just, okay, here's my goals, but then you have to do the then what, and the then what is those
Mm-hmm.
steps, those deliberate steps towards that goal. And it takes time. I think people get impatient. That's why they leave the gym after years. They get impatient with the process, and you have to understand that with anything, with whether it's
Mm-hmm.
fitness or finances, there's a process to it. You're not going to make $1 million in 2 months unless you're that lucky to get the lottery, which
Mm-hmm.
we all know that's very hard to do. But in all reality, it's
Yeah.
a
Mm-hmm.
process.
Yeah, and I think achievable goals too. A lot of people set goals that are I guess more dreamlike than an achievable goal. So, having goals that are possible. So, like me going out and saying, I'm going to be on America's Next Top Model next month is probably not going to happen. But, being able to say, okay, well, I'm going to work towards these small steps along the way, so have that big main goal. But have small goals along the way so you know that you're working towards it, you're making progress, and you're moving along. Especially like if you want to buy a home, that's a huge one. People are like, oh, I'm going to go out tomorrow, I'm going to buy a house. Well, if you've not planned accordingly and you've not saved and you've not worked on your credit, and kind of figured out what you can afford, where you want to be, those are all little mini goals that you have to kind of work through and achieve before you can reach that big goal.
Absolutely.
Def-
And I think it's overwhelming when people just
Hmm.
jump into it without making those small goals. When you
Yeah,
make those small goals, it's less overwhelming, and it's
right.
easier to stay on target and stay in it versus just jumping right in. And, oh, that was scary. I'm not doing that again.
Mhm. Right. Well, yeah, and
that's
you can
so
see
true.
progress along the way. And that's the other part of it is, you have this one big goal and you're like, well, I've been working towards it for what, a year and a half, and I've seen nothing at this point. But if you have those small goals, you're like, okay, well, I'm halfway to my big goal. But yeah, being able to see that and work towards it definitely keeps you motivated to keep going.
Absolutely.
And then on the flip side, you got to have understanding of delayed gratification and sacrifice and discipline, right? I see
Right.
a lot of people that are even in the steps to get to the $1 million goal, let's just say,
Mm-hmm.
and they're so, motivated because their bank account is increasing each month or each year. They're still not delaying their gratification or disciplining or sacrificing themselves to be able to meet that goal in the long term. And I
Right.
tell people, oh, I paid off my student loans with 60,000 plus student loans in 4 years. How did you do that? Every time I got a raise, I put it towards that. I didn't put it towards
Right.
this vacation, that vacation, or whatever. Or when I saved for my over 10 years to go to Hawaii, I mean, I just knew eventually I was going to go to Hawaii. I just delayed that gratification. I went on smaller trips,
Mm-hmm.
in between there. But I just knew that that big trip was going to be amazing, and I was just sacrificing for that, and that sacrifice was totally worth it because Hawaii was amazing. So people don't understand that, especially when we're working with clients. They
Mm-hmm.
really don't, especially the young ones. I hate to put the young ones out there, but the delayed, the FOMO, fear of missing out, and all the other
Right.
acronyms that are out there, or they just don't get it.
Yeah.
They just don't get it.
And just that word sacrifice. I think so many people don't understand what it means to truly sacrifice for what you want. Giving something up so you can have something else that you truly want later on. So many people, especially like what you were saying, Shay, with younger people, they don't understand that yet because either their parents have taken care of things for them along the way, haven't taught them how to save or to want for a while. I think a lot of people kind of get those mixed up, needs versus wants, and it's okay to sacrifice for some of those wants for later on. But just that term sacrifice that you use, it's huge, and it can be implied in so many different areas of our lives, including our walk with God. We sacrifice time with people outside of church so we can have time with our church family, or other things like that too, because those are goals we have as some people as Christians, is getting closer to their church family or spending more time with God. So, those are goals we can have as well, but we always have to give up something else and sacrifice too.
Yeah, and I think the hard thing is with the younger generation, and even our generation when we were younger as well, is the idea of instant gratification. That we're living of things of fast. Everything's fast. Everything's instant. You can order something
Mm-hmm.
right away. I can go get fast food right now. I get a cheeseburger in 2 minutes, and I think everybody's just wanting it now instead of waiting. Or like I remember in my young
Right.
20s, my ex-wife at the time, she was like, oh, we have to have all this nice furniture. My parents have it. Like, well, your parents built up for that. And I think there was a
Right.
generation there where we saw our parents have all this stuff. Like, well, yeah, but they didn't have that when they were our age. They
Right.
have it now when they're in their 50s because they've worked up towards that. They've built towards that. And I think we live in a generation where we just want now, so we go into debt and then
Mm-hmm.
buy the stuff we don't need, and then wonder how we got here later on.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really that being patient and teaching that patience, and being discerning of what we buy and what we
Mm.
spend and how we
Mm-hmm.
use our money. Like even the other day, my son called me from Disney World. He's 19 now. He's an adult. He'll still call me for advice. Like, Dad, I want to buy this lightsaber. I'm like, okay. Why do you want to buy that? It's like $300. Well, should I buy it? I'm like, well,
Mm.
son, here's why I say you could buy that now, but then that's money you won't have for later if you find something you do need for college or what you want later. So if you buy that now, that cool toy, grown man, you're not going to have that money later. And I'm trying to teach, instill that principle of, hey, be
Mm-hmm.
discerning. Do you need that? Do you want that? Is that something that you can utilize later or even regret that later on, which I'm sure he probably would regret it later
I
Yeah,
totally understand. We're big Disney World fans, but go ahead,
yeah,
Vanessa.
yeah. Well, and parents too. That's something to teach your children. I'm not a parent, but I have a niece that I'm super close with, and that's the thing that we've tried to have these conversations about is having a stake in the game. For anything that she wants or needs, so that when she sets those goals, she has something she can work towards as well. So she has to do XYZ to earn money so she can, go on this dance competition trip or whatever it may be. But teaching your children you know, to sacrifice now to, have what they need, obviously, but, a portion of what they want now, and so they can have some more later. But I think that's lacking in a lot of households to teach your children how to work up towards goals.
Well, yeah, especially when they see it on social media. I was thinking the other day,
Right.
some of my, favorite celebrities that I follow, because I'm a hip hop fan. So like the Diddy Puff Daddy's like one of my biggest like things. There and Oprah
Hmm.
Winfrey, right? And so you see all these great trips they're taking to Hawaii and they got these beautiful houses on the water. I think it should be a requirement on social media that you show how you got there. Because I'm sure Diddy did not have this house and all of this
Right.
money
Hmm.
and popping bottles of Ciroc and everything back in the day. He was living like we were, or
Yeah.
even less, right? And so I
Hmm.
feel like they need to show that journey because
Yep.
Diddy was not living. Oprah Winfrey wasn't. I mean, the list goes on. All these great, celebrities out there, if you want to call them great. But it's just there's a backstory and there's a
Hmm.
journey. And but the kids see, the Cardi B's and all that with all the whatever, all of this, jewelry and money, giving millions of dollars to their husbands for birthday gifts and stuff like that. It's like that takes time to build. I mean, it's annoying because it's like, and then they're like, oh, I want to have this money. I want to be a millionaire. I met some kids a
Hmm.
couple months ago at a high school, and they're like, oh, I want to be a millionaire tomorrow. All that. It's like it takes time, okay? It takes time. Warren
Hmm.
Buffett did not become a millionaire overnight. Bill Gates, all
Yeah.
of those. Like you guys need to stop. I mean, I really sometimes want to choke them. And like, really, it doesn't work like that. It's hard work. It's sacrifice and it's blood, sweat, and tears,
Hmm.
hours, 24-hour day work days. I mean, the list goes on of how these people really work behind the scenes to get where they are. And now they're all flashy on social media, but that's not how it is. And it's still not
Right.
easy, I'm sure, even for those that have all that money. But
Mm-mm.
when you're flashing it all on social media, people are like, oh, I can get that to tomorrow. No, you can't. Because a lot of those, cars and jewelry in those videos are rented, people. They don't even
Hmm.
own that stuff.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry, I went on my tangent. I just get
No,
annoyed with the kids.
no. And that's the thing. But it's so true. I have a good friend of mine who is a Latin recording artist, and we were having this conversation the other day. He's doing a songwriting camp, and he's having trouble getting people to understand that you have to learn the process to write a good song, that you're not going to just be able to, one day say, okay, I'm going to write these amazing songs, I'm going to win all these awards, and boom, it's going to happen. There's a process. And he was saying that so many people are unaware and unwilling to put in the time and the effort to work towards it, to work towards that goal. And it's, like I said, it can be in every walk of life. People are not willing to put in that time or the sacrifice for what they want.
Very true. Well, then, so if you're working on personal goals, does it include line items for your religious institution and charities or programs? And what do you do if you can't afford all of them? I know on my spend plan, religious charity is number one after
Hmm.
income, the first expense listed. And I try to give to my religious institution and a charity of choice every month before I pay anything. That's the first thing I contribute to, donate to. So how do you guys feel about that, AJ?
Absolutely. I think for me, I was raised that way. That was ingrained in me at a young age,
Mhm.
even with the kid with a $5, allowance. My mom taught me, hey, well, don't forget to give back to God because He's the one that gave that money to you. And of course, I'm thinking, well no, you need to.
Exactly.
And my mom's like, no, no, no. God gave me the job, and then we had the money, and we gave you some because you worked hard for this chore, and here's how it goes. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So it was always never been an issue for me. I know there've been times in my life where I can give more, I can give less. And I encourage a lot of people, for those who can't afford to, there's ways to give something. And maybe it's not
Mhm.
monetary because I look at like people who live in like third world countries, they don't have money, and the way we think of money at least, but they still give something. They give like their talent,
Mm.
they give their time.
Right.
So I look at, you look at Old Testament theology, and you look at the tithe. The tithe was actually crops,
Mhm.
back in that time frame. And then you look
Yep.
at, the temple giving was money, and you have New Testament giving where they gave to anybody in need. They
Mhm.
gathered their resources and provide to the needs of the people in the early church in Acts. And so you look at, well, maybe I don't have the money to give back to the church or ministry or whatever, but I can volunteer or I can help do
Hmm.
this. So and then once I start building up that equity and building up my goals and having that money, then I can start contributing in other forms and ways as well. So I think it's just where you're at, and if you're able to start to get that principle, that
Hmm.
mentality of giving something, even if you don't have that money, that monetary giving to give, you can give something of yourself.
Definitely. Well, and it comes back to goals too. We have personal goals, and then we have relationship goals, and we have family goals. And then, our church has goals, or our, religious institution has goals. And we're a part of that plan. So if we're not giving in one way or another, then we're not working towards that goal that, our institution that we're a part of has, set. So we're either helping or we're hindering, that goal being reached. And AJ, just like you said, there are so many ways to give. I talk about my grandparents all the time, but when I was younger, we would clean the church, and that was something that we did as part of our extra giving. Because having somebody to clean the church, that would cost money. So, that was something that the church could use the other money for, something else, or to help someone or one of their goals. But yeah, there's so many ways to give. And I think, yeah, that's part of your goal setting mentality is, okay, yes, I have personal goals, but my church family has goals as well, and I've agreed to help with those too. So I think you can work towards both at the same time.
Yeah, balance is definitely the key. A lot of us don't balance. I am guilty. Sometimes I give way too much time and money and energy to the business rather than to my church or to my family. So trying to
Mm-hmm.
find that balance between all of that. I know many people say there's no such thing as work life balance, but there has to be. I mean, there has to be
Yep.
because then you go crazy and you get burnt out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do we accomplish these goals? So we're all talking about why it's important. The word says it's important. Even in Proverbs 16:22, it says plans go wrong for lack of advice. Many advisors bring success. So do you seek wise counsel to accomplish your goals? Do you just try to figure it out on your own? How do you accomplish your goals, AJ?
I think it's a mixture of both. I
Mm,
think it's a mixture of having good people in your life that will sharpen you. Iron sharpens iron.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're not meant to live this life alone and live in a vacuum. We have community. We have people in our lives that can impart wisdom. I think that's one thing that's lacking a lot of times in today's culture is we don't go to the people before us anymore. We don't go to those old wise people who saved us, who went through hard times and knew how to overcome adversity. We just kind of figure it out on our own, which I get. Some people can do that; they figure it out. For me, it's like I've done both. I have my grandfather who really was a huge mentor in my life. He was a pastor, but he was just a very wise person, wise about money, wise about just faith and work ethic and all that. So he's the person I would go to, but also when you go beyond that, it's like, okay, now my grandfather's not an investor, but you know what? If I want to invest in the stock market, I want to talk to someone who's an expert in that. So
Mm-hmm.
I have a variety of friends and family members that I know I can go to for certain things and aspects. And then sometimes just for me, it's just trying to figure it out, reading, doing your research. And I really encourage people to dig in. If you don't know, get a book, get a. There's tons
Right.
of videos that are on YouTube. There's so many resources now, so much content you can look into to find the answer. And maybe that answer doesn't work for you. There's something else out there for someone. And maybe it doesn't. Maybe this one system didn't work for me. I've learned along the way. It's like this one system didn't work for me now. Okay, time to do course correction and see what other system works, what budgeting system, whatever it is, to make those goals. And I think it starts there. It starts, finding good resources and being humble and willing to say, I need help. I don't know it all.
Yeah, I think those are great points. And too, I think it's who we surround ourselves with as well. If our goal is to lose weight, we don't want to surround ourselves with people who like to go out to eat every day and sit on the couch. We want to surround ourselves with people who have, like-minded goals. So, it's who we interact with on a daily basis. But, you're so right, AJ, with talking with people who, have been there, done that. And I think that's something that, people are afraid to ask for help. Um, they don't want to sound silly or stupid. So, we don't ask for help like we should, but it's okay. It's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to talk to somebody who's an expert in that topic, because, you might be an expert in something that they need help with, even having a life coach, somebody that can kind of guide you and walk you through things. So I think, yeah, it's a combination of, just being able to say, okay, I want to do this. I know I can't do it by myself, and that's okay. Because I think you're going to reach those goals quicker when you have help versus trying to do it by yourself all the time.
Amen. That's so good. I just want to reiterate what AJ said about the wise counsel, the old
Right.
heads out there that we still have in our lives. We should be talking to them more than we
Hmm.
talk to Google and Amazon or whatever, Alexa or whatever their name is, whatever
Hmm.
AI that's out there.
Hmm.
We need to be talking to the wise ones. And I think about that a lot. I started my father, he's a reverend, my mom, who's a reverend, and just all my aunts and uncles, grandparents that are still alive, friends and family that are a lot of my friends are like 50, 60 years old. I'm in my 40s, but I've always surrounded myself
Hmm.
with people that were 10, 20, 30 years older because they're so wise. They help me so much tremendously professionally their mentorship was huge, but
Right.
especially with finances, just giving just learning from their mistakes and their
Hmm.
lessons, and then what they are doing right now is tremendous support and wise counsel. And then, of course, in the church and many different churches, my husband being military, so traveling around the world and meeting so many different pastors and bishops and whatever priests and whatever the religion or denomination was, meeting those people that were in some kind of religious text or in the word, they learned so much. So that to me is key for growing. I always seek wise counsel from a human versus AI first, because I know a lot of people rely on that.
Hmm.
But even in Proverbs 16:3, it says, "Commit your actions to the Lord, and your plans will succeed." Because we need to understand God will respond to your effort, and He
Right.
wants us to be successful. So, with that, any final thoughts before we wrap up today, AJ?
I would just say for those listening, when you're looking at finances, when you're looking at having that balance and everything, because our finances, our goals towards finances, it's going to affect everything else. It's going to affect our relationships. It's going to affect our wellness, our mental wellness. I think
Hmm.
when you have good goals financially, that's going to help you propel you towards your future. You're going to be able. It's going to have a trickle effect. It's going to have a resounding effect of other things in your life. You're going to be able to give back to your church organization. You're going to be able to connect with your family better, better relationships. You're not fighting about finances. Number one cause of divorce, is
Hmm.
finances.
Right.
When you look at all
Mhm.
the different emotional stress comes with financial hardships, all that stuff. So once we start making those goals and reaching there, I think it's going to affect everything else in a very positive.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
And I think too, we need to remember that we need to make sure that the goals that we're trying to reach are goals that are truly good for us. And it's okay to take a second and just
Mm.
kind of meditate on that, and, and pray on it and think about it first before we started, trying to achieve those goals, because we need to make sure that those goals are something that, number one, is in the plan for us, and number
Mm.
two, is something that is truly going to help us and be successful later on. And then it's okay to fail. Just because you
Yes,
fail and you
that's
don't
so
reach those
important.
goals, that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that's the end. You can learn a lesson from that and come back stronger and do better than you ever could have imagined. So,
I agree. It
Exactly.
is, and
Exactly,
sometimes you're not
exactly.
even starting over. It might feel that
Mhm.
way, but it's just because all of those lessons play into that foundation, right? So
Right.
I think we need to do a whole episode on fears of failing, and it's okay to
Mhm.
fail because you need to fail in order to be successful. So, wow. Well, thanks AJ and Vanessa for your time. That was awesome, awesome, awesome. I have to say, for those that don't know what AI is artificial intelligence. So it's taking over the world. I'm sorry, it is. But our upcoming
Awesome.
episodes will be on building balance and a budget. And you can tune into current and future episodes of Yahweh's Money wherever podcasts are found, including Apple, Google, and Spotify. Please email us at Yahweh at Crusaders, the number 4change.org if you have any questions or topics you would like for us to discuss in a future episode. Thank you for joining us. And remember, it's always better Yahweh's way. Thank you for listening to this episode of Yahweh's Money. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the crossroads of religion and money. If you have any questions or suggestions of topics you would like to hear us tackle, please email us at Yahweh at Crusaders, the number 4change.org. Also, we would love to hear your feedback on today's episode. So please leave us a review and remember to subscribe to our podcast. To hear all of Yahweh's Money's latest episodes, please visit us at www.crusaders, the number 4change.org or wherever podcasts are found. God bless.